Dear friends, welcome to Think BRICS. Today, our guest is Dr. Suvrokamal Dutta. Is an Indian acclaimed international conservative political, economic, and foreign policy expert who has advised senior government leaders since 2001. He consults for major Indian institutions and political parties on foreign policy and economics. His focus is India's role in global power shifts and BRICS dynamics.
It's lovely meeting you all. Namaskar, Ruski from my side, and it is a namaskar from Bharat. Bharat is the ancient name of my country, India. So we prefer to address India as Bharat. I prefer to do that way. So I will be addressing my country as Bharat. And what a fantastic moment to be with you, all of you, and to be a part of your, dialogue today. And I'm very happy to be officially interviewed by your channel. I've seen your channel in social media. You guys are doing really very well, and it is fantastic to see you all doing such wonderful news in relation to BRICS. Western media has a tendency of avoiding BRICS, or they have a tendency of doing negative reporting about BRICS. But it's nice to see that you all are doing very positive reporting about BRICS. And I'm happy to see that your channel itself is named after BRICS. So I'm sure my conversation would be really very good with all of you. And I think it's early evening in Moscow as well as in Ruski. So it's a namaste from my side.
Dr. Dutta, thank you very much for your pleasant words. It's a, it's a pleasure to us to have you here with us. Thank you so much that you accepted our invitation. Thank you. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
So, let's dive into our discussion. Well, first, I would like to refer to the next BRICS chairmanship that passed to India. So, the Indian BRICS chairmanship for the year 2026 became official just last Friday. That hammer, symbolic hammer, has been given to Indian Sherpa. What's your vision on this? Should New Delhi push hard on finance, tech, or infrastructure projects, or is the real job for Indian chairmanship to managing tensions between members while positioning India as the global South as leader?
Well, first and foremost, I would like to congratulate my honorable Prime Minister for taking the chairmanship of the BRICS Summit next year here in New Delhi. And I'm sure the BRICS Summit here in New Delhi is going to be very glorious. It is going to be with a lot of pomp and grandeur. And at the same time, it would be very deep rooted also. If you remember, 2 years back, we had hosted the G20 summit here in New Delhi, and the G20 summit in New Delhi was also very, very, it was with a lot of grandeur, with a lot of pomp and show, with the beautiful Bharatiya or the Indian hospitality and the grand way of welcoming the people from abroad with our traditional, culture as well as our traditional attire and with our traditional food. So all this would be there. But as the G20 summit 2 years back was a turning point, the resolution of the New Delhi summit was a turning point because it was at the insistence of the Honorable Prime Minister of my country, Bharat, that G20 became G21, and the whole of the African Union was included in G20, and it is today G21. The West never wanted the inclusion of the African Union. Inclusion of African Union means inclusion of 51 countries of Africa. So they never wanted that. But our Prime Minister was very categorical and he succeeded. So that itself proves that my nation, my country, and my prime minister has become the global and the iconic leader of the global south. He represents the whole developing world of the global south of Latin America, South America, as well as Southeast Asia, East Asia, Africa, and Asian countries. So the BRICS summit next year would also have a huge focus on, on South-South cooperation, and my nation being the leader of the South, we would be we would be the torchbearer of the global south in BRICS summit. And I'm sure next year more countries of global south would be joining BRICS officially in the New Delhi chapter. And I think BRICS would be expanded in a very big way. Now, coming to the important issues which would be discussed, I understand that our Prime Minister has been very vocal about environment. He has been very vocal about food security, and he has argued and he has been saying, he had said this time also during the visit of His Excellency, the Honorable President of Russia here in New Delhi, that ultimately the solution between Ukraine and Russia for ending the war has to be through peaceful dialogue, and it has to be through peaceful means. And whatever role is expected for bringing peace between Ukraine and Russia to end this 4-year-old war, and my prime minister would be very happy to end this in a peaceful way if is requested. So these are the kind of issues I think which my prime minister would be raising during the BRICS summit.
I see. Thank you. Thank you very much. About the peaceful resolution of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Well, so many people try to play the role of a peacemaker. So, but no one succeed by now. And one of uh, the persons, the countries who try to tried, or I don't know, not tried enough to bring peace is Donald Trump. And Donald Trump slapped tariffs on India, on your country, once, then reset tensions with one phone call. And meanwhile, India and China still have disputes on the border issues. How do you see BRICS? How do you see? How do no? How do you use BRICS to hedge against unpredictability while blocking Chinese dominance in the group?
Well, you have asked me two very serious questions, so I need to answer them separately. Now, let me come up with the issue in relation to United States of America. Yes, His Excellency President Donald Trump did try to bulldoze his terms and conditions on my country at the cost of the basic economic independence of my country, and we as a country of 1.4 billion people, we would be the last one to tolerate this. Ours is the biggest democracy of the whole world. We are the largest democracy. We are a booming, population with the highest percentage of the middle class and the upper middle class. And it is a country of 1.4 billion people. So if President Trump thinks that he can bulldoze a nation like Bharat, which is an ancient civilization of 5,000 years old, or might be older than that. If I take the Western standard, they say it's 5,000 years old. But here in my country, we say that our civilization is almost around 25 to 30,000 years old, and we have proofs through carbon dating to prove that. Having said that, when my country was never bulldozed by any invaders in the past, whether it was from the Middle East or for that matter by UK when India became a colony, when my country became a colony, and ultimately we won the war of independence and we became independent. So when we had never allowed ourselves to be subjugated by any nation permanently, where is the question of our subjugation by United States of America? Yes, President Trump did try to impose tariff on us, a tariff of 50%. He did that, but it has costed the American economy more than the Indian economy. And, like, I mean, we haven't been affected by it at all. It was this very President Trump had mentioned that Bharatiya economy or the Indian economy is a dead economy. But did it really affect us, his tariff and the imposition of the tariff? No, not at all. If you look into the last quarter, the last 3 months of the GDP growth rate of the last 3 months in my country, ours is the highest GDP growth rate in the whole world. We are 8.2. So if President Trump says that the fastest economy of the whole world, booming economy of the whole world with a growth rate of 8.2 in the last quarter, if that is a dead economy, then what about the economy of United States of America, and where the GDP growth rate of US is less than 2%? President Trump wanted this because he had proclaimed to the whole world that he was the one who had brought in peace and who had brought in ceasefire between India and Pakistan during the time of Operation Sindoor. It's the other way around. The Director General of the Military Services of Pakistan, when our Air Force and our people at the ground and our drones had devastated the Pakistan airspace as well as the Pakistan air bases, so much so that in Kairana Hills, where they have their nuclear arsenal, that itself was in danger. It was at that time that the Director General of the Military Services of Pakistan desperately pleaded with us and with our Director General of our military services that please go in for ceasefire. He had made the phone call 3 times, and it is after 3 phone calls by the desperate military services general of Rawalpindi of Pakistan that our Director General of our military services finally agreed to pause Operation Sindoor. But here, we said it in a very civilized, official, and sober manner, not once, couple of times. Still, President Trump did not agree to the arguments given by my prime minister and by my foreign affairs minister. And since he was exposed at the global level, President Trump, that he was lying all this time, that he's the one who had got the ceasefire and the peace deal between Bharat and Pakistan. Then, when he got exposed at the global level, he had no other option, but he threatened us with imposition of tariff. And he did that initially 25% and then another 25%. But the mockery of the tariff is such that in the last quarter, in the last 3 months, since when the tariff came into existence and it became operational, the US tariff, we have actually escalated in our growth rate, and now US is desperate to sign in a tariff treaty with my country, and United States of America is trying all means to have a negotiation and to find out a amicable solution. But now we will go for that solution when we want it, and it won't be the other way around when US would want it. When we would think that it is conducive and it is the right time, then perhaps we will take a final call in relation to tariff. And I would say that President Trump today he's talking about let us have a peaceful negotiation at 15%. Mark my words, 3 months down the line, that 15% will become zero once again. And he would finally agree for a bilateral treaty between India and United States of America with 0% tariff. So that's going to happen. And this is happening because of the resilience of our middle class. This is happening because of the purchasing power parity and the huge market which my country has. We are the booming market of the whole world now, and we are the biggest market of the whole world. So Indian economy cannot be dictated, neither the Indian leadership cannot be dictated, and we will not buy any kind of dictation. So I believe that part of the question of yours is answered through this explanation of mine. Now let me come to the Chinese side.
Yeah,
Now in
because China,
relation to China, yeah.
because China and India almost, I don't know, every analyst see like rivalries in BRICS. And when it
I
was
would not.
summit in Kazan, and one of the top news of that period was that Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping have resolved border issues.
See, like we as a country, we as a nation, when our philosophy is based on the notion of universal brotherhood or Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in Sanskrit, we never consider any country to be a rival. For us, every country is a friend, and we treat every country as a friend. But yes, our relationship with China in the past hasn't been very healthy, and it is not because of us, it is because of the Chinese aggression. When the late prime minister of my country, Pandit Nehru, when he was talking about Indi Chini Bhai Bhai, or which means India and China as brothers, we were stabbed at the back by in 1962 war between China and India, in which a substantial part of our territory in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, Akshay Chin, was illegally occupied by China. And that is where the border issue arose. We say that yes, a final solution with China would be arrived at only once China returns back Aksai Chin, or 25,000 square kilometer of the Indian territory which China has occupied during the Sino-Indian War of 1962. So it is a legitimate claim of my country, Bharat. It is the territory of Bharat. It is my country's territory that needs to be returned back by China, and also the Saksham Valley of the illegally occupied areas of Jammu and Kashmir by Pakistan, the Saksham corridor, which is above Siachen glacier, which was ceded by Pakistan to China in 1967-68. That is again a Indian territory that needs to be returned by China back to India. And also, China should stop its false claims on the state of Arunachal Pradesh, which is in the northeastern part of Bharat. That is a part and parcel of my country's territory. Arunachal is a integral part of Bharat, and we will not compromise on these issues. So, therefore, I mean, for a final solution to be arrived at, China has to understand this, and China has to give back the territories which it has illegally occupied from my country, whether through Pakistan or whether in the Indian War of 1962 that needs to be returned back. And China has to forsake its false claim on the state of Arunachal Pradesh. Then only a final solution in relation to the border dispute can be arrived at, and China needs to recognize the McMahon Line, which was signed between the independent state of Tibet as well as the then British Empire. So China needs to understand that China has occupied half of the territories of different countries, and whatever modern China is of today is not the original China. So China has to understand and has to realize that if it says that the McMahon line is disputed and Arunachal is a part of China or Akshay Chin is a part of China, we can also say that we do not recognize Xinjiang. or we do not recognize Tibet. We consider Tibet and Xinjiang to be independent countries. The moment we say this, there would be a ruckus within China, and there would be a ruckus at the global level. So China has to understand, like the way we respect the territorial integrity of China, China also has to respect the territorial integrity of my country, of Bharat. So that is something which has to be there. It cannot be a one way traffic, it is a give and take. If we are recognizing that Tibet is a part of China and Xinjiang is a part of China, historically, culturally, it is not so. But till that final solution is arrived at, we and China, we are moving hand in hand, because China also understand that by antagonizing Bharat, by antagonizing India, China cannot have a smooth development, and they cannot be a smooth economic development and a smooth growth rate, and the Chinese influence in Indo-Pacific will not be successful if it has problems with India and if it has animosities with India. So
Mhm.
I think the summit in Kaizen was in that direction. His Excellency Jinping and my Prime Minister, we have spoken on very many issues, and we have come to very fruitful bilateral agreements on several issues, including bilateral agreements on critical minerals as well as rare earth minerals, and on many other things. And the Chinese leadership has also said that let us move ahead on other issues which are beneficial for India and which are beneficial for China, and both these ancient civilizations should work hand in hand and should support each other for peace and tranquility in Indo-Pacific as well as in the global south. So we are moving in that direction. And China also says that yes, finally, a amicable solution will be arrived at the border dispute. We also have that same view that a final amicable solution will be arrived at in relation to the border dispute, taking into consideration the legitimate claims of my country and taking into consideration the total integrity, the territorial integrity of my country. And China should once for all stop its false claims on the state of Arunachal Pradesh.
Thank you very much. It's a so deep discussion that I don't know. In the format of today's interview, I don't think if we have enough time to cover all the peculiarities of Indian perception, Chinese perception, and so I don't know. So much valuable material you have given to us. I would like to suggest to make further episodes with you where you will describe and dedicate actually all the time to this very.
Yes, I would do that. I'll be very happy to have a future episode with you all on the Sino-Indian issue, on the India-China issue.
Yeah, because I already know that a lot of our viewers from China will give us a wave of comments of their position on what you are talking right now. So, but I would like you to ask to keep your responses a little bit more concise so we can cover all the topics we have prepared today. Well, after geopolitics atmosphere, let's go to economic issues. Um, as an economist, what is the most realistic financial project for the group? For I mean, for BRICS you see right now?
Well, I think in future, the ultimate goal would be a common currency between
You
the
think
group
so?
nations.
You
Yeah,
think
yeah.
so?
I think ultimately that should be the ultimate aim, and that should be the ultimate game also, because we all understand and we all believe that the de-dollarization is very important for for a proper healthy growth of individual nations. Brazil is also having a lot of problems with relation to United States of America in relation to dollars. So does South Africa, so does China, so does Russia, and so does my country. So I believe that there, at the international level, there has to be healthy competition and there has to be competitiveness in relation to currencies. If euro is a global standard currency and if dollar is a global standard currency, so should be the rupee, and so should be the ruble, and the Chinese currency, and the Brazilian dollar, or for that matter the South African currency, and other currencies also. So we I understand that the final aim and the ultimate aim, whenever it happens, it might take 20 years, it might take 30 years, it might take 5 years, it might take 50 years, taking into consideration the geopolitical and the geoeconomic situation at the global level. The ultimate aim would be is to have a common BRICS currency and a common exchange. In terms of the banking system, we already have a established BRICS bank now, and a lot of transaction is happening through the BRICS Bank. Not only in relation to the countries within the BRICS, but BRICS Bank is also helping in giving investment and loans to other non-BRIC nations also of Africa, of Latin America, and South America. So I understand that the BRICS Bank needs to be, it needs to be expanded further, and more liquidity has to come into the BRICS Bank. And final aim would be is to have a common currency so that the de-dollarization can take place within the global south and within the BRICS country of Indo-Pacific, as well as of Africa and South America and Latin America. These are the aims, and these are the areas where I think final approach of the BRICS and future collaboration of the BRICS nation would be happening.
Uh, BRICS common currency, it sounds like a fantasy because the countries are so diverse. Um, we have seen, I don't, you also, I'm sure you have seen and read a lot of articles and a lot of speculations on the web about BRICS currency. But you told that it doesn't matter when, maybe even in 30 years. But what do you think if BRICS countries start with integration of their payment system first?
Yes,
Like,
that
for
would be a
example,
very
mir system we have in Russia, UPI that you have in Bharat, China has its own, Brazil. If they start with this one, why not?
Yes, I think the integration of the common paying system, that is a very good idea. 94 to 95% of our bilateral trade between Bharat and Russia is based on the bilateral currencies, rupee and ruble agreement. And today
Local
we are
local
yeah,
currency.
the local currency. Today we are trading between Russia and Bharat almost around 95% in relation to the local currency. And the same approach is being approached with Brazil as well as with South America. And we have started the system of the payment through rupee. The UPI and the rupee. The digital platform. And Brazil has also accepted the UPI and rupee as a means of bilateral, exchange, and
Yep.
so has South Africa. And rupee and UPI is becoming very popular in Southeast Asia, also in relation to Singapore, in relation to Indonesia, then Philippines, and Malaysia. These countries, Singapore, Indonesia, and Malaysia and all, they have already accepted rupee as one of the official means of payment, and UPI is been given an official status. So is the case with Maldives or with Sri Lanka and many more African countries, with Mauritius, with Seychelles, and many more countries of Africa, as also with Latin American countries. So I understand that UPI and rupee could be one of the ways of this bilateral exchange, of the common currency denomination exchange and the trade between the local currencies. That could be one way out. This has been discussed with the Chinese premier also by our honorable prime minister for rupee and for UPI. There are bottlenecks in relation to in relation to China, but I think the Chinese leadership has welcomed the idea. More talks needs to be done, and I think that could be one of the ways of, or one of the means of the payment. And if that solution is arrived at, then I think it would be the next stepping stone in relation to the common BRICS currency, because this would give a huge fill up in relation to the common BRICS currency. And I think that would show a direction and it would be the path towards that. And BRICS definitely has to raise its voice at the global level in relation to G27 and also at the United Nations and other international forums, whether it's Shanghai Cooperation or SCO or BRICS or any other global forum on common issues in relation to poverty alleviation, in relation to unemployment, education for all, universal female education, then, the social health issues, environmental degradation, issues of terrorism. These are the areas where BRICS has to raise its voice in a much more cohesive way in relation to the expansion of the United Nations and expansion of the Security Council of United Nations, so that countries like Bharat, like India, Brazil, and South Africa becomes permanent members of the Security Council, and reforms within the United Nations. This is something which the BRICS as a platform has to vociferously put its voice across. Discrimination of the global South by Western countries is something again which the BRICS has to take a clarion call on this at the global level. I think these are the areas where more teeth has to be there from a platform like BRICS at the global level.
Hmm. I see. You mentioned about poverty, and I should add that poverty goes hand by hand with food security. And
Yes.
what do you think about the idea of BRICS to create um, grain exchange?
Yes, that would be a very good idea. And I think it is a fantastic way of handling such important issues, which are humanitarian issues, because
Yeah.
millions and of millions of people across the globe today are dying out of hunger and poverty. With the war-torn countries of Africa, the war-torn countries of Southeast Asia, or for that matter, even in Russia, Ukraine, also there is a food crisis. There is a huge food security problem, which is being faced by the whole global world, whether it's Europe, whether it's Africa, whether it's Asia, or whether it's America itself. So food security is a very important issue. My prime minister has made his voice so clear on this, and he has raised this in every global platform, the issue of food security and poverty alleviation, eradication of poverty, addressing the issue of global hunger, and famine and global death due to hunger and due to scarcity of food. So I think a buffer, or might be a kind of a mechanism where there could be common exchange of food grains between BRICS countries is something, or might be a food grain bank, you know something of that sort, where grains can be exported from countries which has bumper production into countries where there is famine, where there is less production of food items. So it could be done that way. My country has huge buffer food grains production every year. So those could be sent to other BRICS nation wherever there is a requirement. Russia does need a lot of food grains, especially corn, rice, and other important food grains item from India as well as from China and from other BRICS nation. So all these issues needs to be addressed, and I think BRICS can do this in a very strong way at the global level.
Thank you so much. Um, I would ask you the final, my ultimate question for today. Let's look a little bit in the future. By 2030, just 5 years, does BRICS, how do you see, does BRICS become a real alternative order with its own institutions and rules? How do you see it? Or does it stay just or remain just a talking shop that, like many on the West say, for countries with shared complaints but no real unity?
No, BRICS does become a very important platform at the global level by 2030. It is already a very important platform at the global level, and I think it will become a much more advanced global platform with every passing year. And in my understanding, yes, this is just the beginning. BRICS has made a lot of noise and it has raised a lot of eyebrows at the global level, especially in the West and in United States of America, because President Trump keeps on saying that BRICS is a sham order. But that itself shows that how scared he is and how scared the West is. And many countries of NATO, many countries of Europe, they are keen on joining BRICS, or they are keen on expanding their collective relationship and their bilateral relationship at a much more advanced level with the BRICS nation and with the BRICS countries. So European Union is very keen on having more deep rooted relationship with BRICS, and many countries of the global south are in queue for joining BRICS. As far as I understand, I think there are almost around 60 to 65 applications which are pending from global south for joining BRICS. So that is a tall order, and I understand that the way things are going, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, I think BRICS will become a very important platform which will not only checkmate the Western domination of United Nations, and it will also checkmate other global forums led by the West, whether it's the G77 or the G20. And I see a huge potential for BRICS in future. By 2050, I understand BRICS would be a top of the town at the global level.
Hmm. So we should shift to from global south to the term of global majority then. If
Yes,
there are
absolutely,
if there are
absolutely. And
65 countries, as you mentioned, that are in line to join BRICS, so we are almost the
yes,
majority of the
yes,
South.
yes, absolutely. And today itself, the number of members which are there in the BRICS from Africa, from South America, as well as from Asia, if you combine the total strength, that
Mhm.
itself addresses 70% of the global resources. Like, I mean, 70% of the total population of the global world, and 70% of the global resources, and two-third market of the global world is currently catered by BRICS. And I think there is a lot of jitter in the Western nations as well as in United States of America with the present dimension of BRICS itself. And they are so scared now about BRICS. So just imagine if by 2050, if around 70-75 countries becomes part of the BRICS as a platform, then where would be the position of the imperialist West and the imperialist US would be? They would be disseminated at the global level. And that is where the fear of the West is in relation to BRICS. And that's the reason they try to do all this kind of mischievous campaign at the global level in relation to BRICS.
Mm. Actually, if you say if there will be 75 countries in BRICS, it will be United Nations. The United
Yes, it
Nations.
would be it would be a parallel United Nations, and the present United Nations would lose its legitimacy if that happens.
Well, one of the goals BRICS has is to reform somehow the United Nations, to serve it to the global majority, not
Yes,
only
absolutely.
little group of countries that represent global minority today, Western
Yes,
countries.
absolutely, absolutely. Especially the small countries of Latin America, the small countries of South America, of Africa, of Micronesia, Polynesia. like Melanesia, countries like Tonga, countries like Kiribati, countries like Samoa, kind of all these smaller nations, who do not have any kind of presence at the global level. BRICS is a platform for them at the global level in G20, G77, in G20, as well as at the United Nations. And as I have said, that my country has already become a global leader of the global South. It is my country which has advocated the inclusion of African Union into G20, and today G20 is G21. I would advocate the inclusion of the Latin American countries, the South, the whole of South America, the whole of Latin America, Micronesia and Polynesia and
Into BRICS.
Melanesia into the G20 to make it G25 by 2030.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your vision. I think we could continue our conversation, our discussion, and listening to you all the evening long. But unfortunately, we are limited in time. Dr. Dutta, thank you so much for
It
sharing
was,
your insights with us today. And we are,
it-
myself, really hope to have you with us again all along the next year, all along the next year of Bharat's presidents in BRICS.
yes,
So
it would be
there
my
surely
pleasure.
will
It
be
was
more to talk about.
Yes, it was wonderful talking to you, and I'm sure I'll be more happy to exchange my views on important sensitive issues in future discussion, especially on Bharat and China, and might be on Bharat and the Middle East and Pakistan, of course. So those areas I would surely deal with in future discussion, and I'm very happy to give for giving me this platform to share my observations and my views with you all. My best wishes are there with all of you, and I wish you all a advance Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. And through you and through your platform, a very advanced Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year to all my brothers and sisters of Ruski. And once again, it is a good evening, namaste, and good night from New Delhi from my side.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
To our audience, I would like to tell if you found this conversation valuable, subscribe and share it with others interested in global politics and the future of BRICS. Thanks for watching.